morning, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I have a bright, sunny, happy card to share with you using the Unity May 2019 Kit of the Month. It's a huge sheet of red rubber. There's a monthly subscription you can check out on the Unity website. Tons of fun images. I'm going to use that little lemonade stamp, but I'm going to start off by creating a background. I'm using some white acrylic paint. This is Tim Holtz Distress Paint, and a little bit of liquid watercolors. This happens to be Pink Fresh, a bright yellow color. And I tested this out a little bit, and you don't need very much. Just I think I did 2 little dots of white paint and 1 little drop of the liquid watercolor. And I'm using a palette knife to spread it around, and I'm kind of leaving the edges rough for a little bit of texture. The white paint gives a good opaque look, and the liquid watercolor just kind of tints it. The less you mix it together, you almost get a little bit of marbling with the color and the white. It's kind of just a fun effect for a fun background. Now I'm going to stamp my image from the Kit of the Month. I'm using that lemonade image, and I'm stamping it in Copic-friendly ink, just on white cardstock, and I'm going to color it with really simple Copic colors. I forgot to leave the lids where you could see them as I was coloring, and when I first started I forgot to zoom in, but I zoom in here in a few seconds a little bit, and I think I got a little bit closer so it was easier to see. But I used a few different shades of yellows, and I'll list those on the screen so you can see each of the colors in case you're curious what they are. And when I'm coloring just really simple like this, a lot of times I'm kind of doing messy coloring, I guess, leaving a little tiny bit of white space, not trying to color imperfect. It's okay if it goes a little bit over the lines. There we go. I think I zoomed in just a little bit better there. I don't know if that helped so you could see a little bit better. A slightly darker shade of the yellow there for a little bit of blending. And then for fun on the lemons, just to give a different look, maybe they could be grapefruits, I guess. I did a little bit of a pink color there and colored the straw. And I didn't color the outlying images and shading because for my card on this, I'm going to carefully cut it out with my scissors. I'm just going to kind of fussy cut around the edges. So I didn't need those extra little parts necessarily colored because I'm going to trim them off for this. That's one great thing about some of these images is you can make them a little more versatile just by if you were stamping it right on a card and you wanted the extra little stuff around, but you can also cut it out like this and just use the part that you want on your card, which is kind of fun. Now I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle on there. I'm using just some crystal sparkly Nouveau drops, and I just kind of put a little on there, and then I spread it around with my finger just on those slices of lemon, and then I also added a little bit on the straw. So I'm going to set that aside and let those dry now. And at this point I did a thin enough coat of my white paint that is actually dried fairly well, and I'm going to add a few little tiny black splatters on there. My favorite way to do this lately has been black liquid watercolors and a fine brush. And you barely need, if you want the super fine splatters, I don't know if you can see them super well on there, but you can get thicker ones with more paint. To get the really fine ones, just the tiniest bit of paint, kind of shake the excess off first. All right, and now that that's set aside to dry, we're going to heat emboss a sentiment from the kit. Lots of fun sentiments on there, but I'm doing this on some black cardstock. I used my powder tool to make sure my embossing powder only sticks where I stamp my sentiment. And then I'm heat embossing my image in white. And then I like to trim sentiments down into banners quite often, so I just use my paper trimmer to trim that down. And then I take my scissors on the side, trim it down to the width I want, and then I can quickly trim that into a banner. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I made just a straight cut in, and then I cut in from each of the corners to that center mark, and that makes the points of my banner be nice and straight without needing a die or anything. And you can custom size it to whatever you want, which works really great on that. All right, I set that aside and let the glitter drops finish drying on that lemonade. And now that they're dry, I'm going to attach that with foam adhesive for a bit of dimension. And I'm just trimming down my foam adhesive to kind of fit the spots I want on there. I'm going to attach that down first, kind of planning where I'm going to pop my sentiment on there. And as you can see, since part of it sits on top of the lemonade, I'm using just a tape runner to attach that part and the foam tape for the other part that's going to be on the front of the card. Attach that onto a soft coral card base, and we're all done. Super fun, super simple. Thanks so much for coming by. Have a wonderful day.